Lynn Wood has continued to send out hopeful tweets since then, and he's also filed a lawsuit to throw out the results of the Georgia election because of unconstitutional deals that the Secretary of State in Georgia, a Republican, cut with the Democrats. And I wanted to have Lynn Wood on again today to see if he could give us some more positive reinforcement as this nail-biting exercise recounts and court challenges continue. Lynn Wood, thanks for being with us again here on the Howie Carr Show.
Well, thanks for having me again, Howie.
Well, you know, first of all, I should ask you about there were reports that there's an quote-unquote emergency meeting of the White House legal team today at the White House. Do you know anything about this?
I do not. And let me say this for clarification. I don't represent President Trump, and I do not represent the Republican Party of Georgia or the National Republican Party. I have met with a number of individuals in the Republican Party. I've talked with some of their lawyers. I'm working in let's say, an unofficial capacity to try to help the president. So I'm working closely with Sidney Powell and with Mayor Giuliani. If they need me, I'm there for them. And I am aware of information. I met with Sidney yesterday all day, and I don't know the nature of the meeting, but I know that things are going to be rapidly developing over the course of the next few days, because the evidence of the computer voting fraud is mounting daily, which is a separate issue than the issue I raised when I filed my lawsuit against the Secretary of State here in Georgia. But at the end of the day, both issues are related, because both mechanisms, both the absentee ballots and the computer voting machines, constituted the fraud that was perpetrated upon the people of the United States of America.
So are you still confident? I've read your tweets today, but I just wanted you to be able to tell the American people, are you still as confident as you were last week?
The answer to that would be unequivocally yes. I was 100% confident last week, so I can't say I'm more confident, but just for the sake of trying to tell you where I am in terms of the information I'm aware of, let's just say I'm 105% confident this week.
So do you know anything about this raid that was supposedly conducted by the American military in Europe? Now, we originally heard they were, Louis Gohmert, the congressman from Texas, said he thought they were raiding a private company. Now we're hearing that they may have raided a CIA facility, that the CIA may have been involved in this. Do you know anything about this?
Well, I do know some things about it, but there's some conflicting information. What I think is accurate is that the raid was conducted on a SCYTL facility. SCYTL, that's capital SCYTL, and it may have related to servers that are stored at that facility. I don't know whether the good guys got that information or the bad guys. So I'm not in a position to say, but I do believe that the servers that were located there would contain significant information that would prove in some of the elements of the fraud that was conducted, which SCYTL was part of.
Do you think Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani have the smoking gun, for lack of a better term, that's going to get these results turned around?
To be accurate, I'll say I'm confident they have the smoking guns, so I'm saying it in the plural. I've seen sworn affidavits. I've seen sworn video statements. I think that Sidney and Rudy have done a magnificent job in a short period of time of piecing together a solid legal case on what was intended to be a complicated scheme of fraud as it relates to the voting machines. But when you boil it down, it simply amounts to the fact that the United States of America was relying on voting machines that were subject to manipulation. We might want to go back to the days where we fill in a hand ballot, sign it, let people count it. Because when you open the door to these types of computers, you're opening the door for people to manipulate, to hack, and to defraud people. And that's exactly what was done here. There's no doubt in my mind about it. It started in Venezuela. It connects into Cuba. It connects into Frankfurt, Germany, where servers were stored, in Barcelona. And it tracks back ultimately to a company known as SGO Smartmatic. They developed the software. That software went into a number of voting machines, almost exclusively used in the Dominion machine. The information was then processed through CITL. That's where the manipulations occurred in the software that was reported out to a company called Clarity. Clarity was providing real-time numbers for people watching it on TV. That's why people saw 560 votes for a Republican all of a sudden go down 560,
right.
560 up for the Democrat. It was pure and simple computer manipulation of the voting totals.
Now, what is the remedy here? Sidney Powell yesterday mentioned on one of the Sunday morning shows that she thought there's going to be a whole new election. That's not possible, though, is it? Really?
Well, I don't know what specific remedies the president or his campaign might pursue. Let me give you an example of what I believe has to be done in Georgia, and then we can talk about what would have to be done across the United States. In the state of Georgia, as alleged in my lawsuit, I believe that the law is clear and that the election was unlawful and void because the Secretary of State changed the substantive rules of the election, and that can only be done by the legislature.
Correct, yes.
So they're going to have to void that election. Then the Georgia legislature, in a special session, will do what it's supposed to do under the 12th Amendment, and it will select the electors and direct them on who to cast their vote for. So the President of the United States can still be, and I believe will be, elected through the Electoral College, but it'll be based on state legislators determining the will of the state. The rest of the Georgia election has got to be thrown out, and there's going to have to be a new election on all the down-ballot races, and they need to get busy trying to schedule
everything?
that in January instead of
not just the Senate,
because
all the legislative races.
Everything was infected by the computer and the absentee ballot fraud. You're not going to have the ability to go in and discern how to calculate a legitimate vote enough to be able to give the voters the integrity they deserve with respect to the election. So they're going to have a complete redo of the down-ballot races. They can do that in January instead of having a runoff, because the runoff's illegitimate because it's based on an illegitimate general election. As far as nationally, I don't know the process in each state, but I think there's going to have to be some determination by the state legislatures as to whether they have confidence in the results of their particular state elections. If they do, they can certify it. If they don't, they may have to do the same thing that Georgia's going to have to do, and they may have to have another down-ballot election.
How is this evidence going to
take some time?
Yeah.
It's going to take some time, but the time will be well spent, because I don't believe any objective, fair-minded citizen wants to be represented by individuals who were elected based on fraud by buying an election. They want people to be elected by their legitimate, valid votes. If it takes a little time, it takes a little time. We can deal with the presidency on December 14th under the 12th Amendment and the Electoral College, which is the mechanism under our Constitution for determining who serves as President of the United States.
However, some of the legislators, the Republican-controlled legislatures in some of these states have said they're not going to interfere with the election returns. They, however fraudulent they are, and they don't use those terms, but that's what they mean.
Well, I don't know what they said and what the basis for it is, so I really can't comment. I know this. The legislators have a duty under their oath of office to uphold the laws of the state, and I'm sure the laws of the United States. And if they are aware of a fraudulent election, they have a legal and moral and ethical obligation to act on it. You cannot ignore fraud. The good news is I think despite the fraud, many of these elections were probably determined correctly. They were focusing primarily on key Senate races, and they were focusing on the presidency. That's where they put in the computer algorithms, and that's certainly where they went in late at night, created any number of hundreds of thousands of paper ballots, many of which in some key jurisdictions were only votes for Biden with no down ballot
Like Georgia.
votes.
Like Georgia.
And I'll tell you something else that Georgia had, because I've spoken with one of the heads of the Macon-Bibb County Election Authority, and he noticed that there was a number of the absentee ballots where the dot, the bubble, where you used to go, in school,
Right.
you'd circle the circle when you wanted to do
Right.
an answer.
Yeah.
They were perfect. Not a lot of people do perfect circles, and he noticed an extremely large number of those. I think that this election is so fraught with fraud that anybody, no matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you ought to stand up and say, we're not going to tolerate it. If you don't want to vote for your people in office, say so. But that's not America. In America, we have the right to vote. We have the right to have our vote counted, and we do not have to tolerate people manipulating and putting in a fraudulent election simply because of their agenda. And that's what happened here. It's not the first time. They did it in 2018. They did it in 2016. There's information to believe that Obama and Biden did it in 2012 in Florida. This is a scheme developed initially in Venezuela. And the scheme amounts to being able to go and buy an election in any given country. They did it in Argentina. They've done it in Chile. Now they've sold it to someone with the interest in manipulating the presidency of the United States. The evidence will eventually show who was ultimately responsible. But I think it's a combination of bad actors. I think it's people that want our country to be socialistic, to move to communistic. I'd look at China. I'd look at George Soros. I'd look at the globalist and the military-industrial complex.
How soon is this all going to come? When's the Kraken going to be released, as Sidney Powell calls it?
He's gone.
Oh, he's done? Okay.
Cambodian Broadcasting Network.
TVរបស់ខ្មែរ
Cambodian Broadcasting Network.